What up, everybody? It's your boy Tom here, and I'm back with what is admittedly a very third YouTube video kind of video. If you can believe it. I know. So the last couple videos I've done have been super like information and design dense, basically like nerd shit. And today I wanted to show you a little bit of some art, some illustration process for potential card art, and have a little bit of lore, a little bit of story going on in the background. It doesn't necessarily relate one to one with the illustration, but I think it's gonna really set the tone, set the mood, and enjoy.
The light, projected onto the clay of his wall through spiderweb cracks that traversed the wooden boards covering his bedroom window, danced. Mother was humming a gentle song. He thought perhaps it was a lullaby she might have put him to bed with when he was a child, but that couldn't be right. Whatever its origin was, it must have been special. She'd been humming it since before the sky had begun to lighten. The boy halfway sat up in surprise at that realization, for if he knew that, then he must have awoken before only just now. He rubbed at his eyes vigorously, trying to will the haze from his head, and his fingers came away wet. The tears smelled like fear and mud, bloodied fur, and the smell was gone. He rubbed at his drying cheeks again, bringing his fingers to his nose and breathing deeply, but nothing of the image remained. Had he been awake when he'd dreamt it? How long had it been since Mother stopped humming? He furiously tried to tie the threads of his mind back together as he pulled on his clothes, but they seemed tangled or just out of reach. It would do him some good to get up, move around. At the multi-hued, woven curtain that was his door, he paused for half a beat, no longer than one at the most, and then stepped through into the rest of the house.
Mischief, how handsome you've grown.
He did not know why Mother called him that, for he had always done as he was told. "Good morning, Mother." Her pupilless gaze hadn't budged from the task laid out before her. She began to hum the knot lullaby again, the notes grated out from her throat as if they were reluctant to enter open air. Mother used to weave the most beautiful tapestries. She'd stitch together scenes of birth accompanied by the memory of a baby's laughter bouncing in from just outside their open door. Or a roar would thunder through the house, and Mischief would always jump, which she would laugh at, but not mockingly, and she'd admire the great beast born from the spools littering the floor that now decorated their wall. The boy crossed the small room quickly, stepping over, around, and between the heaps of textiles in their usual places. At the door he bent down, grabbing the handles of the two wooden buckets Mother had placed there and lifted them. The mostly congealed pucks of blood sloshed in what liquid remained, spattering the white of his skirts.
Mischief, the dogs are hungry. Why don't you feed them?
Her hands tremored as she worked, her movements slow. What she would have completed in barely the span of a breath just months ago now seemed to take an eternity. "Yes, Mother," he replied, already mostly out the door. To either side of the hole in the fire-hardened clay that served as the house's only entrance and exit sat the hounds. He knew they were staring directly at him, drool stretching down like mycelium from their flabby black lips, haunches trembling. If he'd met their gaze, he also knew it would be level with his own, despite that he'd recently sprouted taller. Instead, the boy waddled the buckets to the creek that bisected their yard and dumped their contents into the flowing waters. Tiny red-brown tadpoles seemed to appear around the blood, encircling each puck as they drifted out of sight. Then he turned to the two dogs and held each of their sad looks for a breath before stepping between them, pausing to scratch the tawny one between her ears and the red one under his chin, and continued inside. "They are fed. I think I'll go back to bed now." He'd decided he didn't want to see this tapestry when Mother completed it. She just smiled warmly down at it in acknowledgement and continued to hum the same song. As he crawled back onto the straw-filled canvas of his bed, he tried and failed to not think of how, before that blood was hardening in the buckets, it had seeped into the room from under the curtain. He tried not to remember how he'd wept, so guilty that Mother was cleaning it all despite her aching joints, but too afraid to move. He shook the thoughts from his head and breathed them away in one long gust. Already he felt better. He even noticed how beautiful the patterns of light were that danced on the clay of his wall.
Alrighty, well, that's where I called this drawing. Usually, I don't know, maybe you've seen my other work before, but usually I probably go way too far with the details. But given that this is kind of like a proof of concept for the in-game card art, this was more than good enough. And let me know in the comments down below what you think this piece might be about, or if there are like real world parallels you see being drawn. You know, I'm just interested in how people are receiving it. And once again, of course, thank you for watching. Please like this and subscribe so that you never miss out on any more updates from the Coil. Thank you.